What did we discuss in our previous class? Which chapter are we in? Of? Very good. What is the title of 6th chapter? Who has written, translated the purports? It's just icebreaker. Sorry. Now what did we discuss in our previous class?
How we did a comparison with
Which verse did we end on?
23. 23.
Okay. Take it. Go ahead, Demoni.
Yeah, Prabhu compared Ashtanga Yoga with Krishna consciousness. Whatever benefits we can achieve by Ashtanga Yoga and more can be achieved by Krishna consciousness. Yeah, we did the comparison of Ashtanga Yoga and Krishna consciousness and concluded that whatever benefits we can achieve in Ashtanga Yoga and more can be achieved in Krishna consciousness. And even Grihasthas can do it, and we don't have to. We can practice it in living in our current situation. We don't have to go to forest or. That was it. And we also discussed about 3 major problems faced by devotees. Those were inattentive chanting, blasphemy of devotees, and sex within marriage. Is it?
Regulation is must for a healthy body and mind.
Very good. Yeah. So we talked about regulation of what?
Eating.
Everything is what? Where is Appa and Amma? They are coming for the class? Okay. Regulation in what?
Eating and
What is it?
Reading proper.
Rajkumar.
Regulation in eating. Keep only half of stuff. Reading proper.
Okay. Reading Prabhupada's books. Regulation in reading.
No.
Induced poverty.
Yeah, induced poverty. Yes. Why is regulation in eating required? Because the tongue, belly, genitals, everything is in one line. Therefore, it will directly impact how the way we our consciousness will be impacted if we overeat. We also saw some practical aspects of eating, like yeah,
7:30.
eating, having prasadam around 7:30 and not too late into the night. Then, how much to eat? Yeah, half stomach, and keep half for. Out of the remaining half, then water is half and air is half. Correct? So, but what we normally do is full stomach, so then the air. That's the problem. Okay, air cannot. There is no place for air inside. Okay. What else? Regulation in what? The way we. Yeah. Why am I supposed to tell you? You are recapping or I am recapping? I don't know. Yeah.
Internet usage. Late night internet usage.
Yeah, late night internet usage.
Phone calls.
What are some of the things that we can live without?
Skype.
Huh? Very good.
Facebook.
We can live without
Facebook.
Facebook. We had better friends before Facebook was invented. So friendship has got nothing to do with Facebook. Friendship can come if the desire to serve is there in the heart. Not by simply posting something and clicking a button which says find friends, accept friend, reject friend. That's not the way we get friendship. This Facebook can go sometimes out of control. And then also it's not very, I don't know, somehow personally I feel like that. I don't know how to click that, so and so Mataji wants to be your friend. Now I find it a bit odd when it comes to Vaishnava culture. We don't do that. No, Mataji, can you be my friend and all? No? Those are all the teenage days. No, those are over. Pre-Krishna conscious days are over now. No Mataji friend business. Mataji is Mataji. Full stop. And we are servant of Mataji. No friend business with Matajis. No opposite sex friend business. If you want to be friends, then enough Prabhujis are there. So no need of accepting Mataji and friend and whatever. Okay. Now, some people say that Facebook helps in preaching, etc. But we really need to know, Prabhupada didn't have any Facebook at that time. So it doesn't mean that we should not use technology to spread Krishna consciousness, but we have to be very careful that we don't get, we don't indulge in Facebook on the pretext of preaching and then waste our time or get entangled in some unnecessary complications. Like that. Anyway, so there is regulation in terms of eating, regulation in sleeping, regulation in speaking. Regulation in speaking is what? Reduce prajalpa and discuss Krishna Katha as much as we want, less prajalpa, like that. Okay. And then we saw different criteria that for which are the basis for comparing Ashtanga Yoga with Krishna consciousness. What were some of the criteria we saw? The principle. The principle is the same. To constantly engage the mind, body and words in the Supreme. Relationship with the Supreme. How they are different? In terms of
partial, localized form.
Yeah, one is the localized form of the Lord and one is the Bhagavan himself. There is a direct relationship. Place of practice for Ashtanga Yogi. What is the place of practice? Which example we took where owing to lack of association someone can fall? Jad Bharat. Yeah, not Jad Bharat actually, Maharaj Bharat. Before he was Jad Bharat, Maharaj Bharat was on the Bhava platform. Very high platform. Shraddha, Sadhu Sangha, Bhajana Kriya, Anartha Nivritti, Nishtha, Ruchi, Asatti, Bhava, Prema. Second last stage. He had already reached that stage of Bhakti. Bhava platform. And from Bhava platform, what happened? He decided to leave home and go to the forest. When he went to the forest, what is the mistake that he did? Did not take any association. Because of lack of association, what happened? Got attached to a deer. There was no one to correct him. So therefore, when we have no devotees to correct us, then we are in a very difficult position. Sometimes when we are corrected, the moment we start speaking, but Prabhuji, aap to jante ho, mera situation aisa tha. When someone starts talking like that, it is very difficult to tell that person anything. And when we do that also, for others it is difficult to tell us something. Correct, no? So therefore, receptivity to feedback has to be there. For example, sometimes, in my own personal life, when I give a class somewhere, so devotees always say, "Acha class tha Prabhu, ekdam maja aaya, acha tha ye wo." Devotees will always praise. But one person who I always ask is who? My wife. She tells me, "Kya kiya maine?" In the car nicely, हाँ ठीक है, बहुत हो गया, अच्छा हो गया, अभी सुनो, ऐसा नहीं करना चाहिए था, वैसा नहीं करना चाहिए था. So sometimes our wife can be our best friend in Krishna consciousness, who can always, because the wife can see through the husband like nobody else can. Husband can be a big senior devotee outside the congregation for everyone, but the wife really knows what the husband is, right? And where are his weaknesses and what are his strengths. And wife doesn't have anything to lose, so she can be very honest with us. But of course, we have to have a relationship with the wife, so that that kind of feedback can be had like that. But it is always good that somebody is there who will correct us. And for the wife, then it is the husband can be correcting. Many times what will happen is, because the wife is lamenting, the husband gets bewildered, and therefore the husband also starts playing the same music as the wife, okay, without thinking whether she is right or wrong. So the husband needs to take a step back, because what happens, sometimes ladies are emotional, okay. When they are emotional, then sometimes things should not be taken seriously, and the lady also does not want the husband to resolve the problem. The lady simply wants the husband to give a ear. Correct or no? Very good. Because we studied this in Grihastha Ashram. That's why I am able to tell this. Okay? I fail when it comes to my own experience. So don't blame me. I try my best. So, when the ladies just give the ear, but then at the end of the day, even if our spouse is incorrect, wait for the tide to come down and then say, कल जो बात हुआ ना, by the way, just थोड़ा बात करने का था उसके बारे में, and then you can put, not at that time. At that time nobody wants to listen. At that time it's only outpouring. Hear it and then slowly then discuss the issue. So the husband must not blindly support the wife when clearly whatever the wife is behaving is not conducive for Krishna consciousness, and the wife should also advise the husband if the husband is not dealing properly with somebody. So that way, in a Grihastha Ashram, in the house itself, there will be 24/7 check on us, somebody to correct us, like that. But it's a very of course the it's best to have somebody who is a counselor, somebody who is a mentor for us, with whom we should always validate our sadhana. Am I going in the right direction? Am I not going in the right direction? Then we are safe, because then that person will lead us into the proper direction, like that. For which we have to have relationship. So relationships with devotees is very important if we want to progress. Otherwise devotees will leave us alone and we will only have Hari Bol relationship. हरि बोल माता जी, कैसे हो, बहुत दिन हुआ, कैसे हो, और प्रभु कैसे हैं, अच्छे हैं, बच्चे कैसे हैं, अच्छे हैं, आप कैसे हो, आपका बच्चा कैसे है, वो भी अच्छी है, सब अच्छा, अच्छा हरि बोल माता जी. That is all. इसमें क्या है, what is there? There is nothing in this conversation. Correct, no? So these are called as sweet nothings. There is nothing in this conversation. But relationship should be such that when the person should come, माता जी आपका चैंटिंग कैसे चल रहा है आजकल, आप मंदिर में दिखाई नहीं दिया बहुत दिन, क्या हो गया, अच्छा माता जी क्या करेगा, इन-लॉज आया है, अभी इन-लॉज को सर्व करूँ या चैंटिंग करूँ मंदिर में आके मंगल आरती में. एंड देन देयर इज अ डिस्कशन व्हिच हैपेंस, देन देयर इज ददाति प्रतिगृह्णाति गुह्यम आख्याति पृच्छति. Then there is a discussion which happens, and then there is a perspective which is shared by the more experienced devotee, which we need not necessarily accept. We can also ask questions, but how do I implement whatever you are saying, So at least some conversation is happening, some direction, for which relationships have to be there with senior devotees, like that. So all of us must have a relationship with someone senior. So we have to, I told about restricted relationships, right? Everyone knows, no? Everyone clear on restricted relationship? Huh? What are the things we must do for restricted relationships? Why everyone is seeing as if new term? Huh?
Restricted.
What do you mean by restricted relationships?
Following for regulative within the marriage.
Following four regulative principles.
Within the marriage.
Sorry, you're completely off track.
Relationship is only devotees, certain devotees.
Non-devotees.
Huh.
So,
Priti, you were not there when we talked restricted relationship during lunchtime. Mahesh Prabhu, you should be able to tell us.
so it's with a certain set of devotees with whom you have a relationship, to whom it will give some advice.
What is going on? Why so much of coming, going? It's already 7:30 है. बंद कर दो.
बंद होता नहीं.
नहीं होता. You stand there. No, I just joke. Sit.
So it's with having a set of devotees with whom you have a relationship, with whom you can share, information in confidence. It is not like having a groupism kind of thing, but it's for a healthy progress in the devotional life.
Correct. So therefore, yeah, good. So restricted relationship is something which I had an opportunity to hear about when recently I went for my yatra. Then I went to the Bombay temple, and then one of the senior devotees who advises us usually, he talked to us about restricted relationships. What does restricted relationships mean? Restricted relationship simply comes from the fact that we cannot have perfect relationships with everyone in the congregation. Everyone agrees to this? We cannot have, even if everybody is devotee, still every devotee cannot have perfect relationship with every other devotee. Correct? You will always find that some Mataji is getting along with some Mataji and another Mataji is wondering, ये Mataji के साथ जमता कैसा है इनका? You know, we may be wondering, it happens no sometimes. Huh? I cannot get along, I can't tolerate this person, but this person and this person are getting along so well, like that. So this is the principle. So we cannot get along, but some people can get along with some. Some people can get along with us, some people cannot tolerate our face also, when we come to the temple. Correct, no? And we know with who we have relationship and with whom we don't have relationship. We know that within our heart. So restricted relationship simply means that there are three levels of relationships we need to have. Relationships with superiors, relationship with peers, and relationship with juniors. Relationship with seniors, relationship with peers, and relationship with juniors. Madhavanand Prabhu, have I spoken to you any time about restricted relationship? Okay, then it's worth discussing.
You spoke in the class also.
I spoke in the class. Why?
Devotees, we
Yeah.
socialize or we open
Yeah.
with.
Yeah. So what we have to do is, it is advised that we take a piece of paper and we make 3 columns: senior devotees, peers or / friends, or people who we preach to, who are the people who we cultivate, or your counselees, if you like, your counselors, your counselees, and your friends. So you have to take a piece of paper and write down who are the people who we want to really have close relationship with, who our heart tells us that we must have. It's a question of heart. If you are, sometimes it's not just goes by seniority and because he is he or she is president of the temple or vice president of the temple or manager of the temple. It will not all those considerations. It's simply with which senior devotee am I comfortable discussing my issues? Who do I respect? Whose instructions do I feel comfortable accepting? Like that. So you can list down those people, and with such people we must serve those people. We must serve. Prema, Maitri, Kripa, Upeksha. We must serve the people with love. And those devotees should be served very carefully in our lives. It's our choice. Nobody can tell. You cannot ask, Prabhuji, jara batao na yaar, kaun sa senior devotee, jara naam to dena mujhe. No, it doesn't work like that. It has to come from our own heart. And the moment you put pen to paper, you will know it. Those names will come to your mind. But for that, you have to go to a secluded place and sit down, like Ashtanga Yogi. And aram se you have to think, okay, who all can I have a relationship with? Mr. X, Mr. Y, Mr. Z. This Prabhu, this Mataji, this Prabhu. Seniors. With friends, this is where most Vanda comes. Most Lafada comes where? Amongst peers only it comes. Who will drive Guru Maharaj? Whether I will drive or you will drive. Why he drove Maharaj? Why he sat in front seat with Maharaj and I sat in back seat with Maharaj. This is where that small. Why that Mataji is making Gaur Nitai garland and why I am making only Jagannath Baldev garland. This is where Lafada comes. Within devotional life itself, all these bickerings happen. Now, therefore, because of bickerings over so many years of service, then somebody always cannot get along with someone. Is it practical reality? No? Yes? Practical reality. Correct? So therefore, we have to choose at some point in time. It is not at some point in time, if with somebody, some devotee, our relationship is just not improving despite our best effort and whatever, it just means that probably the chemistry is not matching. That's all. It's as simple as that. We don't need to tag that devotee as a bad devotee and I am good devotee, because anyway, or neither you to do the reverse. I am very fallen, that person is very advanced. We don't need to do any tagging business. It just means that the chemistry is not there. That's all. In Hindi we say maja nahi aaya. So there is no need to qualify more than that. That's all. It just doesn't work. That's all. So that devotee is also right. I am right in where I am. So just with such people you can have Haribol relationships. But we must have some friendships in the congregation where we can open out our heart to our friend and talk like a friend. And there, friends with whom you don't have any fear that you will be judged. You can say anything to them and they can say anything to you, like that. Or you can talk your deepest things with them. I'm giving an example. What is the deepest thing that a grihastha can talk to? Prabhu, I am not able to control my senses at home. ये मेरा प्रॉब्लम है यार, क्या करने का? आपने कैसा कंट्रोल किया? Because he is your closest friend, then it is very easy for you to discuss with your close friend. So we must have such friendships with whom we can discuss the greatest of difficulties. Same thing you can discuss with seniors also, but sometimes still it is very difficult sometimes to open up with a senior. But we have to choose. We must have some seniors who will serve. The purpose of serving the seniors is what? That we have to choose that devotee, and we must be so that we are able to serve him and absorb that devotee's mood. Like that. So you can choose a senior devotee, put a list of maybe 1 or 2 senior devotees, at least 5 or 6 friends, peers, and then also decide to who you want to give your association, to cultivate. There are so many people who will come. प्रभु जी हरि बोल, क्या प्रभु मर्सी नहीं मिला बहुत दिन से, आप हम हमारे पास देखते भी नहीं हो, something like that. Somebody will come, okay, or somebody will send, प्रभु आप तो मेरे को इग्नोर कर रहे हो, अरे कितना बार बुलाया अभी, घर में आओ, you are not coming. So we have to now decide, who are the people who we are cultivating, with whom we have to have restricted relationships. Restricted relationship, we have to choose that I am having a relationship with this person by which I can instruct this person, and this person will trust and listen. Where that trust is not there, we simply shut up. We don't go and instruct people with whom we don't have relationship, where we know that if I say something I'll get it back, 20 things will come out from there. Again, Prabhu, aap bhi kya karte ho? Something like that. Or you don't have that relationship. Or people. So on the top side you have the senior devotees, then you have the peers, and then you have the. So we have to you can take a step back, put down these names, who are these, decide, and then work within that boundaries. Outside that boundary, relationships are what? Hari Bol. Then what will happen? Gradually, we will find that we are less disturbed, because we will not expect affection and reciprocation from those people from whom we are not going to get it at all. So why to go behind and feel frustrated and unhappy in Krishna consciousness? Correct? Rather than that, where your heart is going to, and make the best use of those relationships to progress. Like that. This is approximately what I understood. It's probably a much deeper topic. Within whatever 15 minutes or 20 minutes of my discussion, whatever I understood, I have shared. But when I go to the next trip, I'll try and get more information on this topic, on how to implement this. But this is what I was told. I don't know why we came to this topic, but why did we come to this topic? About association. So what kind of association we must have? So we must take regular association within the restricted relationships. Right? So we can all go home, try it out. Use a pen and paper. Don't consult even your spouse. अरे क्या उनका प्रभु का नाम नहीं डाला क्या आपने? Then you have to have restricted relation with wife also. So don't do that. Every soul goes out to a heart. Sometimes even before marriage, our best friend, our wife never likes. कैसा वो तेरा best friend है? But you have best friendship with them. Wife doesn't like. Or husband doesn't like, kaisa saheli hai tera, kaisa, how this person can be your friend, like that. So every soul is at the end of the day independent. We have to understand that every soul is independent. Kya karega? Rightly or wrongly, it is like that. So no advice from anyone. You have to put your own list. Okay, so that's about association. Mind control we saw. Conscious mind control, what is that? Difficult in case of Ashtanga Yoga. Mind control is a prerequisite for Ashtanga Yoga. But for Bhakti, mind control comes by Bhakti. Like that. Then so many things which are manner of sitting, celibacy, fearlessness, object of meditation, goal of life, result. What is the ultimate result? What is the ultimate goal of yoga practice? Cessation of all material existence. So you can go through the notes offline. So we are doing now text number 24. Okay. One should engage oneself in the practice of yoga with determination and faith and not be deviated from the path. One should abandon without exception all material desires born of mental speculation and thus control all the senses on all sides by the mind. Dhanashekhar, who? Oh, sorry. Damodar.
The yoga practitioner should determine and should patiently prosecute the practice of deviation. One should be sure of success at the end and pursue this course with great perseverance, not becoming discouraged if there is any delay in the attainment of success. Success is sure for the result practitioner. Regarding Bhakti Yoga, Rupa Goswami says, one can execute the process of Bhakti Yoga successfully with full-hearted enthusiasm, perseverance, and determination by following the prescribed duties in association of devotees and by engaging completely in activities of goodness. As for determination, one should follow the example of a sparrow who lost her eggs in the waves of the ocean. A sparrow laid her eggs on the shores of the ocean, but the big ocean carried away the eggs on its waves. The sparrow became very upset and asked the ocean to return her eggs. The ocean did not consider her appeal. So the sparrow decided to dry up the ocean. She began to pick out the water in her small beak, and everyone laughed at her for her impossible determination. The news of her activity spread, and at last Garuda, the gigantic bird carrier of Lord Vishnu, heard it. He became compassionate toward his small sister bird, and so he came to see the sparrow. Garuda was very pleased with the determination of the small sparrow, and he promised to help. Thus Garuda at once asked the ocean to return her eggs, lest he himself take up the work of the sparrow. The ocean was frightened at this and returned the eggs. Thus the sparrow became happy by the grace of Garuda. Similarly, the practice of yoga, especially Bhakti Yoga and Krishna consciousness, may appear to be a very difficult job. But if anyone follows the principles with great determination, the Lord will surely help. For God helps those who help themselves.
Okay. So what are the points here?
Lord helps themselves. Lord helps those who can help themselves.
We have to be determined.
God helps those who help themselves. We have to be determined.
Perseverance.
Faith.
God sees, Krishna sees the effort.
We're having a bad day today.
Determined.
Just not able to concentrate today for some reason. Yeah.
Faith has been.
Huh?
Faith.
Yes.
God
Good
sees
point,
the
yeah.
effort.
Faith. Huh?
God sees the effort. We saw in the Hanuman story when the squirrel was helping with the sand. And that time Rama said, both the services are same to me. It might be big or small. Like effort is there, peace is there, only effort.
Faith is most important. Faith in the Lord. I protect you at all times.
Very good.
However difficult the task, we will not give up.
Yes, very good. Yeah. Nice point.
We should be so determined and have patience in our and also
Sorry. Who is that?
So rather keep the doors open. So rather keep the doors open here.
I'll just pray to Gaur Nitai. Okay.
We should be very determined and have faith in God so that we do not deviate to whatever we are doing. And also we should be able to control our mind and senses. And this will continue. This will help us to be on the right path and not be deviated from the focus.
Alright. So, the first stage of bhakti is Shraddha, faith. So, bhakti starts with faith. Without faith, there is no question of any progress. With faith, one has to associate with devotees. Shraddha, then sadhu sangha. If a person doesn't have faith, the person will not associate with devotees at all. And without that faith, then there is, if faith is not there, there will be no determination. Even sometimes, after coming into devotional life, after spending few years, still sometimes doubts can arise. Am I doing the right path or not in Krishna consciousness? कोई गड़बड़ तो नहीं है. Okay. So faith can get shaken up at any stage of devotional practice.
You must have conviction.
Pardon?
Conviction.
Yeah, so this faith has to be nurtured. This faith has to be nurtured very carefully. Faith should be there in the object of worship, which is the sadhya. And faith should also be there in the means to achieve that goal, which is sadhana. Faith must be there in both. First, there has to be faith that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. On top of that, there has to be faith that by the process of chanting, then we can attain that love of Godhead. This requires faith. Now, when it comes to determination, devotees also need to have determination. But the specific context of determination in this particular verse comes in comparing Ashtanga Yoga with Bhakti Yoga. Now, see the faith of see the determination of the Ashtanga Yogi. Who do you think needs more determination, Ashtanga Yogi or Bhakti Yogi? Why?
So he's secluded.
Based on own effort.
Based on own effort, okay, fine.
No, he leaves his current place of existence and then he moves to a secluded where he needs to survive on everything on himself.
Yes.
More importantly, this does not have a relationship at the
Yes.
beginning itself when it starts.
Okay.
He is undergoing a lot of austerities, so those austerities can deter him from
All right.
path as compared to.
Mind
And
can
the
go
person is alone, so he does not have the association there on the season. And
Okay.
in case of bhakti, the association is there. So determination, even if it's weak, somebody else can.
The process is removing all the things which are matter and trying to determine what is left over. So he's really not sure whether he's going to reach the end or not.
He's not sure what?
He's going to reach the end or not.
Yeah, you are almost there. Okay, you almost touched the point. So, an Ashtanga Yogi has to be determined lifetime after lifetime. Because Ashtanga Yoga process is typically one, especially in Kali Yuga. If you start practicing, it will take many lifetimes, right? But Bhakti Yoga can be done in the span of one lifetime. So, who needs more determination? The Ashtanga Yogi, because the whole process itself demands so many lifetimes, like that. So, lifetime after lifetime, the Ashtanga Yogi needs to have fixed determination and enthusiasm, because this particular type of yoga typically goes beyond the bounds of one lifetime. So, therefore, he needs to have a very high level of determination and enthusiasm. And that is why in this context that sparrow example is given. The sparrow keeps on going. But for devotees it's very easy process. The sparrow example is for the Ashtanga yogi. In that sense, it is given that the determination should be there, because it's as difficult a process as, for the Ashtanga yogi, it's as difficult as a process as the sparrow trying to dry up the ocean. But for a devotee, it's very easy. If a devotee is not able to do that, then there is higher providence from where help comes. So in that context, this passage is coming. Now, it is mentioned that in this verse, one should engage oneself in the practice of yoga with determination and faith, which is fine, but it is also said and should not be deviated from the path. What are some of the deviations that a person, even after coming into the process of bhakti, can get? What are some of those deviations? Proper devotee, practicing devotee. Not that, okay, Prabhu devotee will go and take alcohol. No. Proper practicing devotees who will never probably touch alcohol in this lifetime. What kind of deviation such devotees can also have?
Attachment to the activity?
Attachment to the activity.
Yeah.
You can't call that as a deviation in one sense.
We can get into the trap of ego.
Oh, Krishna. Okay, so what are the types of deviations that even a fixed devotee can have? Devotees who are reasonably into Krishna consciousness.
Even after understanding Prabhupada's books and Prabhupada's mission, we are getting it ISKCON. Some people try to look at other sampradayas.
Very good.
They
Beautiful.
want to know what is there in that.
Fantastic.
I don't believe that means we don't have proper faith in known Prabhupada's mission.
Correct.
We still try to find what we don't get because we are not perfect in Prabhupada's mission.
Correct. Very good point. Yeah, very good point. So this is also a deviation, and by that one's faith will never get developed. In this congregation itself, we have umpteen number of cases like that. Devotees will come for years and years to this temple, and then they will still not be sure. Should I take initiation from ISKCON or should I go to some other sampradaya? Should I take from Sri Sampradaya? Something like that. When Chinnajiyar Swami comes, should I go there and take initiation? So this is called as avyavasayitmika buddhi. Bahushakha hi anantascha buddhayo avyavasayinam. You will not go anywhere by that. So one has to clearly understand at that point in time, one has to take a step back and understand, hang on, who taught me the ABCDs of bhakti? Which institution is helping me today? Who are the devotees who have cultivated me? There is something called as gratitude also in bhakti. To the people who have helped us in our Krishna consciousness, there is something called as gratitude to those people. If we cannot have gratitude for Srila Prabhupada, who has sacrificed everything for all of us and given us these books, we read from here and then go and take, we go and say that I was born in South India, therefore I will take from Sri Sampradaya, then we are not using our rational thinking. Please understand, Sri Sampradaya is a great Sampradaya. There is nothing wrong in taking initiation there. The Swamis there, Andavan Swami or Jaya Swami, they are bona fide devotees. They are all representatives of the Lord. So we don't have any, it's not about comparing their Sampradaya with us. They are also glorious as much as our Sampradaya is also glorious. Okay? But the problem is for devotees who being there, for example, same is true of somebody in Sri Sampradaya also. You are associating with the devotees there, they are helping you in your devotional life, and then you are dreaming, okay, can I go to ISKCON? The same problem here also. Everything is here, you are using this infrastructure, you are using these facilities, these resources, you learn your ABCD, and then you are saying that let us go and take because I am born in some Karnataka or something like that. How does it matter? In this lifetime you are born in Karnataka. In next lifetime you will be born in Timbuktu or Kenya or somewhere. How does it matter, right? So this is a typical irritant, if you like, in bhakti. The even further irritant is the person who does like that and goes there and then comes and talks to devotees here. You also come there. It is very nice there. That sampradaya. You come. A poor fellow, he is doing nicely, and then he comes and poisons this fellow also, and then goes there like that. This is worst. That's why we sometimes request devotees that if you are chanting 16 rounds for 6 months, take shelter and get into the sampradaya. Don't start. There is no need to think too much. I think everybody has this faith that Srila Prabhupada was a pure devotee. I don't think anybody will disagree with that. No? Why Srila Prabhupada set up ISKCON? Did he set it up for any material reasons? Did Prabhupada have any material objectives in writing Bhagavad Gita as it is? Even if he had, somebody will not do it at the age of 70 with 3 heart attacks, right? On Jaladuta, like that. So we have to have some gratitude for the persons who have, and the institution which has taught us the ABCDs of Bhakti. So this can be a typical deviation for us, and this deviation will not allow us to chant attentively at all and to focus ourselves in Bhakti. Aditya, you want to be in or out?
I am going home.
Very good. I can only tell my son, I can't tell others. But I expect that others' parents will tell their children. Because if I tell their other children, then बुरा लग जाएगा. Correct? No? We can't do, no? बुरा लगने का syndrome है ना congregation में. माता जी को बुरा लग गया. And I don't want to get into that. But we have to tell our children. Okay. Typical deviations that can come is Ritvikism. This is another biggest challenge for ISKCON. Where devotees come and then they say that Prabhupada is the only Guru. I don't accept the disciplic succession. Like that. I will directly take initiation from Srila Prabhupada. So this is one of the deviations. So we have to be very, very carefully, we have to understand the philosophy of Krishna consciousness. And immediately when we see somebody talking this nonsense, either we correct that person or leave that person alone and say that, Prabhu, thank you very much, but no thanks. So if you are Ritvik, you can go to whatever your temple is and associate there. Don't come here and disturb our congregation. With these people, we cannot be too lenient. We have to nip it in the bud. Because this is a poison which is spreading within ISKCON today. You have to nip it in the bud. If you find that any of your Bhakti Vriksha members are, continuously harboring these things, then there is no point in just having a goody-goody relationship. It's time that you make it very clear and say that you can do whatever you want outside. Because these people will be within your Bhakti Vriksha. You will be cultivating 5 people, trying to, take them to Guru Ashray stage, and this person will, keep feeding that poison. So all of you, especially those who are going to start Bhakti Vriksha in you, please remember these points. You have to be very vigilant on who are your members and constantly have these dialogues with them so that they don't get deviated from even within the group like that. The other big problem that we have, ISKCON has faced is premature dalliance with Raganuga. This is a big thing that always keeps coming. We were in Mayapur last year, we were outside Swananda Sukhada Kunj, which is the place where Bhakti Vinod Thakur resided. Outside that, our Shubha Vilas Prabhu gave a very nice class. And after that, the devotees did a drama on how Bhakti Vinod Thakur was very cutting on all these kind of people, and Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati also, on people who used to prematurely, talk about Gopi Bhav and all that, They in the drama they said, one person was coming and another, this person with the long beard, supposed Babaji, he's telling, Aaj se tumhara naam Tuntun Gopi hai, So Aditya also is a very catchy, Tuntun Gopi, like that. So, who liked that? You like Tuntun Gopi, yeah? I also liked it. Aditya was also laughing like this. All the children were also laughing. So they will give you some name and tell you that you are that Gopi. From tomorrow onwards, you start meditating that you are that Gopi. And I found that there was nothing wrong. After all, it's all Bhakti only. I am not thinking I am Salman Khan or something. I am thinking I am Gopi. So what is wrong with that? So this was there. And why all these rules and regulations? But when I consulted senior devotees, they asked me a simple question. Is sex desire in your heart or not? What is the answer? Big yes. Correct? Are we completely rid of sex desire? Are we completely rid of anger? Are we completely rid of envy? Are we completely rid of greed, pride, everything? If we are completely rid of, then maybe we can think something at least in that direction. But first the process has to be followed, isn't it? The process has to be followed. If we don't even come to the human platform, and we have animalistic tendencies all the time, then where is the question of approaching Radharani? Correct, no? Radharani and Krishna, they cannot be approached directly. No? So good counsel prevailed over me. Just stick to Prabhupada, we will go back to Godhead. It's a nice process. It's a process full of internal and external integrity. Okay, let's understand who we are and let's follow this process. We will go back to Godhead. We already are seeing the progress. Have we not progressed thus far from where we were? Why will we not progress further from here? And if you really want to understand that whether Raganuga Bhakti is there in ISKCON or not, Keshav Prabhu did a very nice seminar last year at the end of our Bhakti Vaibhav course. I don't know whether it was recorded. You can hear that seminar or you can read articles by Suhotra Swami. He has written fantastic article on how to see Raganuga Bhakti within ISKCON. He has written an article and I read that and I was pretty convinced about that. So, I don't want to get into that topic right now, but I am saying that this premature dalliance with Raganuga Bhakti can be one of the deviations. So, here it is written, no? A yogi has got many deviations. Of course, we are not Ashtanga yogis, we are applying it in our context. Unless there is spiritual discipline in our lives, how can we trust that our bhakti is spontaneous? We have to go through the process of cleaning our consciousness, isn't it? Till the time we are attached to sex desire, till the time we are attached to enjoying our senses, till the time that we are attached to money, power, position, whatever, till that time the spontaneity will not arise from within the heart. If you really want to understand Raganuga Bhakti, a sample of that, you can read The Journey Home by His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj. If you read, there is this Ghanshyam Baba in that. You see, so that is a clear example of Raganuga Bhakti, where there is a spontaneous attraction for the deities. But that spontaneous attraction doesn't mean that the Babaji is blaspheming all those people who are in ISKCON or other sampradayas. If you actually see a person who is a true Raganuga Bhakta, his heart will be full of love. They will not be posting websites which are blaspheming ISKCON. Do you think a person who is full-time engaged in blaspheming ISKCON and Srila Prabhupada, can he be a spontaneous devotee of Lord Krishna? How does that sound to you? It sounds incredible to me. Not incredible, incredulous. Yeah. Incredible is unbelievable. No, it's believable. It sounds incredulous. I think that's the right word probably. It sounds absurd. Like that. So right now we don't have to worry about it. But please understand that this is a deviation. If anyone comes to you saying that I will teach you Raganuga Bhakti, you have to say Hari Bol. The third deviation, of course this may be a little bit uncommon within the congregation, but the third deviation is Guru fanaticism. This is another thing which can split in ISKCON from within. My Guru Maharaj is better than your Guru Maharaj. This nonsense will split ISKCON. Okay? It doesn't need anyone from outside. So therefore, it is required for us to serve our spiritual master, but not fanaticism. My Guru Maharaj is the best, like that. It has happened in many congregations. Here also, it can happen, and it has happened in the past. Somebody going and saying that, you take shelter from my spiritual master. He is the best in ISKCON. I can tell you that. Like that. So, this is this kind of guru canvassing, business. So this is not relished by the Guru also. Neither would Prabhupada would have relished this, like that. So this can split. At the end of the day, the most harmonious congregations are the ones where we serve the God brothers of our spiritual master. If we have that attitude, it doesn't mean we should not serve our spiritual master. Natural affection will be there for spiritual master. But it means that we also serve God brothers with the same enthusiasm. So we don't differentiate. Because we should not give Diksha more importance than what is required to be given to Diksha. Yes, bona fide from a disciplic succession we have taken Diksha. But most of our progress happens how? By Diksha or by Siksha? Most of our progress happens by Siksha. Let's accept that. For example, I get most of my inspiration when I, from Melbourne Mahaprabhu Mandir, Bhurijan Prabhu comes, he does a retreat. Bhakti Rasamrit Maharaj had come. So much inspiration. Bhanu Swami, so much inspiration we got from him, right? And now Hanumat Preksha Swami Maharaj has come here. Kadamakanand Maharaj comes here. Vedvyas Priya Maharaj. I get tremendous inspiration from Vedvyas Priya Maharaj. So many devotees are there in our life who are teaching us so many things. So what is the reason to be very fanatic about our spiritual master? And that is not our spiritual master's mood also. No. Any spiritual master's mood is not like that, to be fanatic about him. In fact, if you go to them, they will also encourage you to serve the local temple and the local congregation and the people who come there. Like that. So that should be the mood. So this guru fanaticism can split us from inside. It can spoil relationships. It can take us away. Deviations. Next is God-brother rivalry. One God-brother cannot see eye to eye with another God-brother. Constantly they are hammer and tongs with one another. This is another thing which can split. We will never progress like this. It doesn't mean, again, go back to restricted relationships. It doesn't mean that our God-brothers have to be our best friends. Sometimes, as I said, the chemistry will not match. No? Correct, no? Sometimes the chemistry may not match with a particular God-brother. Quite possible, right? But what we should not do is indulging in blasphemy of that God-brother just to show a one-upmanship and how wrong that is to the other people. We don't indulge in that. Yes, if it doesn't match, then it is fine. Still have a respectful relationship. That's all. You may not be able to come close to that God-brother, but at least have a good relationship. But no blaspheming business or whatever. And when the spiritual master visits, at that time, keep all the differences aside. Throw it out and take a subservient position. Do what is best. Understand your spiritual master's mood and act accordingly. Otherwise, there will be complete chaos. So this God-brother rivalry sometimes can just take out the entire mood of service when spiritual master comes like that. Obsession with the place of birth. There is another big deviation, which is Westerner, Indian, African, whatever. This can also split ISKCON from within. These are all deviations. Even devotees who are inside Krishna consciousness sometimes struggle, affiliating more with particular, people from particular countries, etc., etc. And then deviations can also happen from breakaway gurus, as Prabhu was saying. Somebody from ISKCON has broken away from ISKCON, and the whole herd is now following that person. So we have to understand, what is Srila Prabhupada's instruction? Never leave ISKCON. Simple. If the spiritual master is leaving ISKCON or blaspheming ISKCON, then there is a high chance that there is something wrong, because he is not following the instruction of his spiritual master. So where will he get the potency to guide you from? Correct? So we have to be very careful. Gratitude and loyalty to Srila Prabhupada will beget us that mercy which that sparrow got. If we want to get the mercy that Garuda gave to the sparrow, who is Garuda for us? Srila Prabhupada is that Garuda for us. We have to have gratitude for Srila Prabhupada and call out to him for help. Not leave the movement and seek progress somewhere else. So we cannot succeed without blessings. That is a key point here in this verse. We cannot succeed without blessings, but still we have to show our sincerity by making a determined effort. We have to show our loyalty and sincerity by making determined effort. What that determined effort is shown in the determined effort is also discussed in the next verse. Gradually, step by step, one should become situated in trance by means of intelligence, sustained by full conviction, and thus the mind should be fixed on the self alone and should think of nothing else. From wherever the mind wanders due to its flickering and unsteady nature, one must withdraw it and bring it back under the control of the self. Gauri Mataji, you want to read?
By proper conviction and intelligence, one should gradually cease sense activities. This is called pratyahara. The mind being controlled by conviction, meditation and cessation from the senses should be situated in trance or samadhi. At that time, there is no longer any danger of becoming engaged in the material conception of life. In other words, although one is involved with matter as long as the material body exists, one should not think about sense gratification. One should think of no pleasure aside from the pleasure of the Supreme Self. This state is easily attained by directly practicing Krishna consciousness. The nature of the mind is flickering and unsteady. By a self-realized yogi,
But a self-realized, not by.
but a self-realized yogi has to control the mind. The mind should not control him. One who controls the mind and therefore the senses as well is called Goswami or Swami. And one who is controlled by the mind is called Godasa or the servant of the senses. A Goswami knows the standard of sense happiness. In transcendental sense happiness, the senses are engaged in the service of Rishikesha or the supreme owner of the senses, Krishna. Serving Krishna with purified senses is called Krishna consciousness. This is the way of bringing the senses under full control. What is more than the highest perfection of yoga practice?
So Srila Prabhupada writes, so the key points here are that the mind can be only controlled by engaging the mind in Krishna consciousness. There are three adjectives which are used for the mind here. What are those? The mind is nischalati. Nischalati means what? Wandering. Chanchalam, flickering. And asthiram means unsteady. So Burijan Prabhu writes that yielding to the demands of the mind destroys the tranquility of the mind. Rather, fix the mind on Lord Krishna, not on one's thoughts, because our thoughts are influenced by previous conditioning. Fix the mind on Krishna and not our thoughts, because the thoughts are influenced by previous conditioning. Like that. So the mind has to be controlled in that manner. 27. The yogi whose mind is fixed on me verily attains the highest perfection of transcendental happiness. He is beyond the mode of passion. He realizes his qualitative identity with the Supreme, and thus he is freed from all reactions to past misdeeds. So who wants to read? Rajkumar, can you read for us?
Brahma Bhuta is the state of being free from material contamination and situated in the transcendental service of the Lord. One cannot remain in the quality of Brahman, the Absolute, until one's mind is fixed on the lotus feet of the Lord. To be always engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, or to remain in Krishna consciousness, is to be factually liberated from the mode of passion and all material contamination.
What are the points here?
We have to rise from the mode of passion to the mode of goodness, at least to be fixed up.
If mind is fixed on Krishna, then the mode of passion and other modes will also subside.
One cannot remain fixed in Brahman.
Without
the
going up. Sorry. One cannot remain in the quality of Brahman until one's mind is fixed on the lotus feet of the Lord. Savai Manak Krishna Padara Vindayor. The man has to be in the lotus feet. Padara Vindayor. So, This verse is indicating that Brahman realization is not the ultimate. Because from Brahman realization, one needs to seek out the Parabrahman. Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma na sochati na kankshati. Sama sarveshu bhuteshu mad bhaktim labate param. From there, one has to go further and realize Paramatma and Bhagavan, who is the source of Brahman.
For the same point, one cannot remain in the quality of Brahman until one's mind is fixed on the lotus feet of the Lord. Next, so to be able to remain in the quality of Brahman, one's mind must be fixed on the lotus feet. To be able to remain in that means you won't be able to remain in the quality of Brahman if you are not fixed on the lotus feet. Is that what it's trying to say?
Sorry, what is the last sentence?
So you cannot remain in the quality of Brahman unless your mind is fixed on the lotus feet of the Lord.
That's what Prabhupada, right? What is your...
Trying to understand it properly. There was some confusion understanding this whole statement when we were doing that during our study group.
What's the question?
You can comment.
I think Prabhuji what he's saying is Brahman realization, there is no question of form.
Lotus feet.
And then how come you are meditating on the lotus feet of Lord?
No, that's not how it has to be understood. One cannot remain in the quality of Brahman. Means it's a usual thing. What Prabhupada has earlier also said. When one attains the state of Brahman, it is very blissful. That state is very blissful. But there is no activity there. The nature of the soul is to always be active now. Right? So there is no service in Brahman layer. The nature of the soul is to serve. Because Jivera Swarupa Hoy Nityara Krishna Das. So we cannot take out the serving mentality out of anybody in this world. Even the worst hardened criminal is also serving somebody. He is doing it for somebody, serving someone. Like that. So in Brahman there is no service. So from Brahman, if one does not try to understand the source of that Brahman, one cannot remain for long without that inquiry. Does it make sense or no? And then one falls down. Prabhupada says one gets bored in Brahman and one falls down because there is no activity in Brahman. So one cannot remain forever there without surrendering to Lord Krishna or without devotional service. Ultimately, it is only bhakti which can remove the Hiranyamayana Patrena, the veil by which the Lord covers his personal form.
That was our understanding, but you cannot even remain in the quality of Brahman until you are. It doesn't say that you cannot remain in the quality of Brahman for long or forever. To even be able
so what is the quality of Brahman? Let us understand. What is the quality of Brahman? Okay. The quality of Brahman means the quality of not being materially contaminated. Correct? So Prabhupada is saying you cannot remain aloof from material contamination for too long if you are not engaged in devotional service. That is what he is saying ultimately.
The discussion in the study group Prabhu was, like our initial interpretation of that statement was, when Prabhupada is writing that one cannot remain in the quality of Brahman, so we said it's the first realization of, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is the Brahman realization. So that was making sense. But then someone in the group also said, could it potentially mean that Prabhupada is, because he's writing the absolute, so is he referring to the third stage of the realization, which is the Bhagavan realization, because he's using the word absolute. And we said that could not be possible because if it's the absolute realization, the fixedness on the lotus feet of the Lord is what gets us there. And once we are there is no second falling back. So we said that's not, so we kind of left it there in terms of whether it's going for the first realization or the third realization. I think the majority said it's the first realization because it's the Brahman realization. But then why is he using the word absolute? Because the clarity that we couldn't get. Because absolute normally is associated with the third realization, right? With Bhagavan realization.
Prabhupada, but those three realizations, Paramatma, Brahman, and they are all the three are absolute. All three realizations are absolute, but the Bhagavan realization is the topmost because you can have a relationship with the Lord. So in that sense, what Prabhupada is writing is right because that is an absolute relationship.
Oh, we didn't say he is writing wrong.
No, I'm not saying that. Like,
I think it's a very interesting point because if you read the translation of Vedanti Tat Tattva Vidas Tattvam Yajnanam Advayam Brahmeti Paramatmeti Bhagavanti Shamyate. In the translation, Prabhupada writes that the absolute truth is understood in three stages. Brahman, Paramatma, which means Brahman is also absolute truth. So in that sense, yeah, very point is correct. Thank you for that clarification. When I was thinking how to answer it, you answered. Very good. Is it clear?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because
There are different aspects of the absolute truth.
Yeah.
But the highest realization of the absolute truth is Bhagavan realization. It's an interesting question. A nice answer by Akhandadi Prabhu. Okay, where are we? Yeah. So also here the distinction between happiness and perfection is explained in this particular verse. Now, for a yogi, happiness comes to a yogi even before he attains perfection. This was a very interesting point when I read Burijan Prabhu's commentary. Happiness comes to a yogi even before he attains perfection. Freedom from mode of passion and mode of ignorance situates the yogi in the pleasurable mode of goodness. Right? There is obviously a lot of happiness in being in the mode of goodness and entering the transcendental mode. Gradually, the yogi realizes the qualitative oneness with Brahman and becomes very satisfied and happy. But a devotee remains unsatisfied even after achieving his own happiness. His interest is in pleasing Krishna, and that awards him far greater bliss. Are you all with me? What's happening here? Yeah. So yogi is happy because he is out of the misery of the material world, out of the duality of the material world. So he has come out of duality into the absolute oneness of Brahman. So that gives him a lot of happiness. But even when a devotee is in that absolute oneness, that doesn't give happiness because he wants Bhagavan realization. So a devotee doesn't, in the sense the yogi still is deriving happiness from Brahman. But a devotee wants to give happiness to the Parabrahman, who is Krishna. And the devotee derives much higher bliss by deriving happiness by serving Krishna. That happiness is much higher. It is called Sandarananda Visheshatma. This is one of the 6 characteristics of bhakti. The second last characteristic. The last being Krishna Akarshini. There are 6 characteristics. Klesha Agni, Shubhada, Sudurlabha, Moksha Laguta Krita, Sandarananda Visheshatma and Sri Krishna Akarshini. The first 2 are generally told as characteristics of sadhana bhakti. Second 2 are characteristics of bhava bhakti, and the final 2 are characteristics of prema bhakti. So the Sandarananda Visheshatma is that transcendental bliss which devotee enjoys when he is serving Krishna. Like that. So a devotee remains unsatisfied even after achieving this happiness of Brahman, because his interest is in pleasing Krishna. And in next 4 verses, Lord Krishna explains the perfection of Ashtanga Yoga is to realize the Super Soul. In the next 4 verses, that is what Lord Krishna says. Thus the self-controlled yogi, any questions on the previous one? Thus the self-controlled yogi constantly engages in yoga practice, becomes free from all material contamination, and achieves the highest stage of perfect happiness in transcendental loving service to the Lord. Yamuna, you want to read?
Self-realization means knowing one's constitutional position in relationship to the Supreme. The individual soul is part and parcel of the Supreme, and his position is to render transcendental service to the Lord. This transcendental contact with the Supreme is called Brahma Samsparshasa.
So, the previous verse, what was it describing? Correct. The yogi who realized the soul's qualitative oneness with Brahman. That was the previous verse. Now, this verse goes beyond that realization to the realization of super soul. Like that. So, and then Prabhupada is saying, being in touch with the Supreme Self, which is Brahma, Samsparsham. Being in touch with the Supreme Self, the yogi progresses from impersonal to personal relationship. The same Brahman is now going to reveal. If you keep meditating on the Supreme, keep in touch with the Super Soul, the same Brahman will reveal itself to you, the personal form. And then Burjan Prabhu writes that when eventually the Paramatma realization turns into Bhagavan realization, then his practice changes from meditation to pure loving service. Right now, what is the practice of an Ashtanga yogi? Meditation. But by the process of that, what will happen? The object of his meditation becomes so attractive that then the person starts serving the object of meditation. That is Bhagavan realization.
Question: how do they do that?
How do they do it? I explained that before in an earlier class. So when the soul attains Brahman realization, Brahman is very attractive. It's an attractive light. The light is nothing but the effulgence of the Lord. When you see anything attractive, you want to know the source of that, right? So then, when the Brahmavadi, the Brahmavadi is looking outside everywhere he can see light. Now he wants to see the source of that light. So what he does, he starts looking inside. Outside kuch nahi, everywhere is light. So he starts meditating, and that is called as Dhyana Yoga. When he meditates inside, then he understands that Paramatma is the localized aspect of that Brahman. So he realizes the Paramatma, which is the four-handed form of the Lord. Then from formless he comes to the form aspect. But Paramatma, when he comes, you cannot eternally have a Leela with Paramatma. Paramatma is not meant for a Leela relationship, right? Paramatma is just Upadrushta and Anumanta. Paramatma will guide you. So then the Paramatma comes in the four-armed form and says that, my dear, thank you, but I am the higher realization of that Brahman, but there is something higher now. Now you have had my darshan, but now you have to establish a relationship with my absolute aspect, which is Bhagavan. For that, you will have to go down and serve a Guru. Therefore, Paramatma is called as Chaitya Guru. Paramatma points you to the spiritual master. And then you go to the spiritual master, serve the spiritual master, and then realize your rasa with Bhagavan. So that is the cycle in which it works.
Sorry, bro, just my question was to make sure that in the same body he cannot do it, but a Bhakti yogi can.
In the same body?
I mean, so
definitely you can do the same body.
But Ashtanga yogi has to leave his body to attain Brahman in the first place and then come back, or?
Ashtanga yogi can do it in the same body, the same lifetime.
He attains Brahman as well as then.
Yeah. Brahman attaining doesn't mean you have to go somewhere. Okay. You can verily be here and be a Brahmavadi. Like that. Brahman means what? You are understanding that everything is Brahman. Okay. For which you don't have to go to. Yes, it means that you are out of the material sky in that sense.
Okay.
But there are two things. There is the locational aspect of Brahman, and there is the realization of Brahman. One can be Brahman realized and be Jivan Mukta, liberated in this body itself.
Okay,
The
so
consciousness is in Brahman.
People as well.
So, not related to this, but Narad Muni's pastime, was it something to do with this, what closely related to this? That when he only saw Paramatma Vijay and said he will not be able to see
Yeah, the
me.
Paramatma told him, no? That
Yeah.
you will not be able to see me in this lifetime.
So that is the right understanding, this is the same thing.
The same thing.
So you said, maybe somewhere, like the Brahmavadi or following that process is superior than a person who is doing Ashtanga Yoga. Correct? In the yoga, he is always a better person. Brahmavadi is a better person when compared to Ashtanga Yogi. Is that right?
Brahmavadi is better compared to a person who is doing Ashtanga Yogi for Ashta Siddhis, not a person who is following Paramatma realization.
You said Paramatma, if Paramatma resides in the heart, why does it happen that one can have the darshan only once? Because it's residing in the heart and that realization is there. So shouldn't it be like spontaneous or something where you're sort of having that darshan all the time? Because Paramatma is within heart, and then once you reach to that platform, why will it happen that Narad Muni can have darshan just only once in one moment?
So my understanding on reading the purport is that a devotee then hankers for that darshan again in that lifetime, and then that starts the process of bhakti of the devotee.
So that's also Paramatma's mercy that he is not appearing so that one can.
Like the trailer and the movie. So if you can see the movie always, then why do you want to?
So is that the start of Vipralamba Bhava? Is that what you mean?
Not necessarily Vipralamba Bhava. Vipralamba Bhava is more of a rasa tattva. This is not rasa tattva. Right now we are talking about the process of bhakti. Vipralamba, the Sambhoga will come only at a very high stage, bhakti. What is your rasa with the Lord?
That hankering is for the person.
In one sense you are right, that hankering is Vipralamba only. That you are in separation. In that sense, yes, you are correct. Yes. But the Vipralamba word cannot be loosely used anywhere. But if you are talking about Vipralamba rasa, that's a different thing.
Well, in the locational aspect of Brahman, what kind of body the person has when he is not in his material body?
Siddha Deha, spiritual body.
Spiritual body.
We have a spiritual body.
In the Brahman, the person is in his.
The moment you are not in, the moment you are liberated, you are not in your material body anymore. You are in your spiritual body.
And the Paramatma is still inside you.
Paramatma goes with you everywhere to guide you till the feet of Bhagavan.
Probably in verse 29, Krishna is saying that at this stage, the yogi is like that, the Pandita Samadarshina stage, because he's seeing the super soul in his heart and in everybody's heart as well. So, on one hand, he is seeing the super soul, but on the other, we are saying that the super soul is given and then taken away his darshan. So that sounds good.
He is able to acknowledge the presence of super soul in everyone's heart. That is different than he is seeing. When you say he is seeing the super soul, the seeing is a metaphorical statement. It's not literally. He is not seeing the Chaturbhuj form inside his heart. He understands that that ultimately Paramatma resides inside everyone's heart. It doesn't mean that Paramatma comes out of everyone's heart and gives darshan. It cannot be taken literally like that. A true yogi, So now verses 29 and 30, which is what we will do for today, it focuses on the vision of a perfect yogi. A true yogi observes me in all beings and also sees every being in me. Indeed, the self-realized person sees me, the same Supreme Lord, everywhere. Who wants to read? Mahesh Prabhu, you want to read? Fast reading. Not super fast reading.
A Krishna conscious yogi is a perfect seer because he sees Krishna, the Supreme, situated in everyone's heart as super soul, Paramatma. The Lord in his Paramatma feature is situated within both the heart of the dog and that of a Brahmana. The perfect yogi knows that the Lord is eternally transcendental and is not materially affected by his presence in either a dog or a Brahmana. That is the supreme neutrality of the Lord. The individual soul is also situated in the individual heart, but he is not present in all hearts. That is the distinction between the individual soul and the super soul. One who is not factually in the practice of yoga cannot see so clearly. A Krishna conscious person can see Krishna in the heart of both the believer and the non-believer. In the Smriti, this is confirmed as follows. The Lord, being the source of all beings, is like the mother and the maintainer. As the mother is a neutral to all different kinds of children, the Supreme Father is also. Consequently, the super soul is always in every living being. Outwardly also, every living being is situated in the energy of the Lord. As will be explained in the 7th chapter, the Lord has primarily two energies, the spiritual or superior and the material or inferior. The living entity, although part of the superior energy, is conditioned by the inferior energy. The living entity is always in the Lord's energy. Every living entity is situated in him in one way or another. The yogi sees equally because he sees that all living entities, although in different situations according to the results of fruity work, in all circumstances remain the servants of God. While in the material energy, the living entity serves the material senses, and while in spiritual energy, he serves the Supreme Lord directly. In either case, the living entity is a servant of God. This vision of equality is perfect in a person in Krishna consciousness.
For one who sees me everywhere and sees everything in me, we'll discuss both together. For one who sees me everywhere and sees everything in me, I am never lost, nor is he ever lost to me. Kateni Mataji, you want to read?
A person in Krishna consciousness certainly sees Lord Krishna everywhere, and he sees everything in Krishna. Such a person may appear to see all separate manifestations of the material nature, but in each and every instance he is conscious of Krishna, knowing that everything is a manifestation of Krishna's energy. Nothing can exist without Krishna, and Krishna is the Lord of everything. This is the basic principle of Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness is the development of love of Krishna, a position transcendental even to material liberation. At this stage of Krishna consciousness, beyond self-realization, the devotee becomes one with Krishna in the sense that Krishna becomes everything for the devotee and the devotee becomes full in loving Krishna. An intimate relationship between the Lord and the devotee then exists. In that stage, the living entity can never be annihilated, nor is the personality of Godhead ever out of the sight of the devotee. To merge in Krishna is spiritual annihilation. A devotee takes no such risk. It is stated in Brahma Samhita, I worship the primeval Lord Govinda, who is always seen by the devotee, whose eyes are annotated with the pulp of love. He is seen in his eternal form of Shyamasundara, situated within the heart of the devotee. At this stage, Lord Krishna never disappears from the sight of the devotee, nor does the devotee ever lose sight of the Lord. In the case of yogi, who sees the Lord as Paramatma within the heart, the same applies. Such a yogi turns into a pure devotee and cannot bear to live for a moment without seeing the Lord within himself.
What are the points here?
This is showing us the transition of the yogi from the impersonal realization which we just saw to the personal realization when he was seeing the super soul in everybody's heart. And in Delhi, Krishna is saying that now he has reached that pure devotee status because he is seeing the Lord everywhere and he is one with Krishna in terms of the desire.
Qualitative oneness, basically. So if you're one in quality, you need to be able to feel the same as what Krishna is saying.
One is so much attracted to Krishna at this stage that in one way the soul becomes one with Krishna, not in the sense that one is merging within Krishna, but everything is Krishna in that sense. That's a spiritual, that's a suicide because somebody wants to merge with Krishna.
Yeah. Anything else?
When we see the super soul, all living entities and the super soul inside our heart as well, the benefit of that vision is that we can see Krishna everywhere. And Krishna is never lost to us. And neither are we lost to Krishna.
So Krishna is there in everyone, like dog or Brahman or everyone. Krishna is giving mercy to everyone, irrespective of the body. Like showing the mercy of God.
Prabhupada writes that to merge in Krishna is spiritual annihilation. So devotee never takes such risk. So it's Prabhupada's explaining how devotee feels when he goes beyond, like when he wants to develop relationship with Krishna. So just developing relationship doesn't mean that once he wants to be servant. He wants to be servant of Krishna.
So the Lord is equal to all and present in all jivas. So the equality of the Lord is mentioned here. The Lord does not distinguish between man and animal also. In our Mill Park Bhakti Vriksha also we had a similar paragraph today in the Namamrita, nectar of the holy name, where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he went to the forest of Jarikhand, then all the animals and birds also started chanting Hare Krishna. So if you consider Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as a devotee of Lord, in that sense, if you take it, Mahaprabhu is Bhagavan himself, but he was playing the role of a devotee of the Lord. So a pure devotee of the Lord is able to see the Paramatma inside everyone's heart. So an Uttamadhikari does not even distinguish between man and animal. So there are pastimes of saintly personalities who are able to even make the animals chant like that. So the Lord, why? Because such a yogi realizes that the Lord is present in all the jivas. So he doesn't get biased by the external body which has been given to a particular soul. Like that. Now what to speak of the Lord entering into every living entity? The Lord also enters into every non-living entity. When the Lord, so it is the same Sirodakshaya Vishnu. Sirodakshaya Vishnu enters into the living entity, and that localized aspect is called as Paramatma. But the Sirodakshaya Vishnu also enters each and every atomic particle. Like that. So in the case of the Jiva, the Sirodakshaya Vishnu or Paramatma does the role of Upadrushta and Anumanta, the witness and the sanctioner. Whereas the same Sirodakshaya Vishnu, he enters every atomic particle. And when he enters every atomic particle, then that atomic particle is the, if you like, the force within that matter. So scientists are not able to explain why the electrons move around the nucleus. They can say electron moves around the nucleus, but what sustains, what gives the energy to keep everything in its orbit? That is the Shakti of the Sirodakshaya Vishnu. Like that. So the Sirodakshaya Vishnu enters as Paramatma within living entities and also enters inside each and every atomic particle. At the same time, the Sirodakshaya Vishnu is also outside everything, inside everything as well as outside everything. This is mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam, Chatushloki. Pravisthani apravisthani, tata teshu na teshu aham. A living entity who is Paramatma realized is also equal in his vision. So the quality of equality which is there in the Lord is also there in the yogi. The yogi also, a living entity, yogi is who? A Paramatma realized yogi. Such a person is also equal in his vision. And that equality of a Paramatmavadi, a yogi who has realized Paramatma, is not an intellectual adjustment. This is what Burijan Prabhu writes. It's not an intellectual adjustment. It is a realization. A realization is different than an intellectual adjustment. Correct? Many times, intellectually we can adjust that bhakti is the best process. But then there is a realization when it comes, then you are more convinced like that. Intellectually we can understand many things. So the equal vision of a Paramatmavadi, a person who has realized Paramatma, is not an intellectual adjustment. Now we have to be very careful, because sometimes this equal vision, we also need to, the lesson is for bhaktas also. As devotees, we have also to develop the maturity to equally view everyone. Because sometimes this equal vision can be lost as one assumes oneself to be a senior devotee. Over a period of time, because all of us eventually get this tag of being a senior devotee. Especially when you start preaching, then you will always find that the people who you preach to or who you are cultivating, they look up to you as senior devotee. In Bhakta Bhavan also it happens, no? Senior devotee, When, for example, Kirtiman Krishnadas Prabhu, when he came as Praveen, he was a junior devotee. Now somebody will, is under his care. So he is now a senior devotee. With respect to this person, he is a senior devotee. He looks up to Gopavarandesh Prabhu as a senior devotee. Gopavarandesh Prabhu may look up to somebody else as a senior devotee, like that. So, sometimes when we spend few years in bhakti, automatically the seniority tag will come to you, whether you like it or not. Now, that is where the big problem comes. Because the moment we start assuming ourselves as senior devotee, then there is a tendency to demand respect and recognition. And then you cannot see every people with equal vision. Correct? The more senior one is, the one must see everyone as equal. Because that is Uttamadhikari. Uttamadhikari means what? One who considers oneself the most fallen. Like that. And everyone else more advanced. But the tendency to demand and respect and recognition comes. And this can become a big virus, if you like, in our consciousness, when one becomes a senior devotee. Now, what happens is, we have to understand that respect cannot be commanded with a gun. You cannot say, nowadays the devotees are not respecting senior devotees in this congregation. What's wrong with them? Nobody takes my advice. Sometimes it can happen. It happens in this congregation also. It happens. Somebody feels, and says, nowadays people are not taking, advice from me. If nobody is taking advice from us, either everybody is fallen or there could be something wrong with us also. So, respect cannot be demanded. You cannot say, Akhandati Prabhu, I am not liking it. You are just not taking advice from me anymore. I am just not liking it, I am telling you. How does that sound? If I conduct myself in a particular manner by which he feels inspired to take advice from me, then that is something which we command by our behavior. Right? We can't demand. Prabhuji, Bhakti Vriksha members are not respecting properly. What can we do? We can't do anything. We cannot put a gun and say, I have cultivated you, therefore you shall respect me from today. How dare you can't. It doesn't work like that. It does not work like that. Respect has to be earned. Respect has to be earned by we tightening up our own process of Krishna consciousness and being an ideal example. A person who is an ideal example is never hidden from the congregation. You cannot hide, no? If Vaishnava Charan Prabhu is an example of humility, he doesn't have to come to the courtyard and shout, look, everyone, I am the most humble devotee in this congregation. Have everyone seen me? No. By one's conduct, one automatically earns that. So one need not put any external endeavor or tag oneself as a senior devotee and then go about telling everyone, nowadays, the devotees are not taking my advice. That is meaningless then. Devotees will come for advice if we are conducting ourselves properly. If devotees perceive a value in associating with us, then they will automatically come. But of course, we don't say that, okay, I have to increase my skill sets in devotional life so that people will come and take my advice. Please don't take it that way. That again is a downfall. Which means we are doing bhakti for puja and pratishtha. The Krishna is not in the center, then I am in the center of that. How devotees can glorify more and more, and my respect in the congregation will increase. That is not the goal of bhakti. Bhakti means anya abhilashita shunyam. No other desire except the desire to please Krishna. And puja and pratishtha will come as a servant. It comes as a side. It will come. Respect and recognition will come. But a devotee doesn't take care too much for those things. Otherwise we lose focus in bhakti. The moment you start thinking, that, oh, nice facilities are being provided for me because I am the preacher, you start getting attached to those, that will be your downfall from that day. The next time those facilities are not provided, the mind will tell. Last time they had made gulab jamun when I had gone to their house. This time Mataji didn't make any sweet. Something is wrong. This is the problem. So just take it easy. at all stages in devotional life. I mean, I'm saying myself also. I have to take it easy. Everyone has to take it easy. It's puja and pratishtha. Never to allow it to go to the head. As we progress in Krishna consciousness, we have to become more and more inward focused. More and more inward. More progress in Krishna consciousness means what? Meditating on one's own anarthas more and more. Spending more time with oneself and introspecting. Why am I what I am? Like that. Lot of answers will come from the heart. Yes.
From this point, like sometimes by giving power to us to manage something or to do some service, we forget about the other devotees. And I'm telling from my experience that because we don't see many Prabhupada's disciples as very rarely they come because they are living far also. And we think, oh, I'm doing service, I have given this responsibility. And in performing that responsibility, we may offend some devotees which are rarely coming here. Of course, they are very senior devotee, Prabhupada's disciple. And we are trying to be, 100% in our service, whatever we can say. But at the end, we are offending them by underestimating them. Even by in kitchen or many places I have seen that. We think that, I have been in kitchen since last few years, but he may offend somebody who has served this kitchen for many decades, and we try to teach him that Prabhu, नहीं ऐसे नहीं करना चाहिए, आपको आता नहीं है, ये ऐसे करना है. I've seen this like example. So how can you understand this? Like, of course, that devotee will think that I have served this kitchen for so long, and right now they are, treating me like this. Of course, they know that this poor fellow is he's just new and out of his, enthusiasm, he's doing. At the end, that devotee will, of course, he will not feel it.
Yeah, he will not feel it. So therefore, we have to be very careful when we deal with senior devotees. We have to be very careful. Sometimes when we become very expert in a particular area, then we start thinking that we can behave whichever way that we want. For example, that is why it's a very good idea to rotate services. For example, in Chowpatty temple, I know that there is never one person as temple president. At a point in time, there are many temple presidents. And also, that positions keep rotating. So today you are temple president, tomorrow you are the pot washer. So it keeps rotating. So therefore, one gets an experience of both the sides. Like that. So then we can rotate our service and take on another service where we are a student. So that way we get reminded. Like that. I tried this. I tried my best. Trust me. I tried this. I went and took the kitchen, because kitchen is the place where I feel most humble. No way my mind can even tell remotely that you are a senior devotee. Like that. My mind cannot give me that suggestion in the kitchen. Naturally very humble, because I don't know anything there. Okay. I can't differentiate tuar dal from chana dal. I can't, for nuts I can't do it. Okay. So it's a place to be naturally humble for me. So when I went there and I did service, I felt very good after that. Because nobody comes and tells, Prabhu, thoda सिखाओ ना कैसा करने का. Prabhu, क्या करने का? थोड़ा आपका advice चाहिए था इस पे. Nobody asked me for advice, but everybody is giving me advice. So I'm so happy, in that place. So everybody is very kind to me. Prabhu, ऐसा नहीं काटने का, ऐसा काटने का, ऐसा पकड़ने का. Wow. Different place, different experience, and everybody is my senior devotee there. Even person who joined 2 days before also can be senior devotee there, because that person must have done cooking before, and I don't know anything. So I rotated that service and I did it for some time. So it helped me, put my feet back into the ground. I realized that it helped me. Maybe it will help you. I don't know. Of course, then Anirudh Prabhu came and tapped on my shoulder and said, I don't think this is a great place for you to be in. I would rather you go and open another program. So I had to give up that service and open the Bhakti Vriksha in the northern suburbs. Otherwise, at that time I used to do the kitchen deity fruit offering service and like that. And I was very blissful. Vishwatma Prabhu and myself, sometimes Krishna Chandra Prabhu. Krishna Chandra Prabhu is very fast in the kitchen. So I used to learn quite a lot from these devotees.
Yeah. That's the point. Most of the time, your senior devotees or your Siksha Gurus or whoever is superior, they wants you to do the things like where you are best, like as Prabhu asked you to
Correct,
do
correct. Yeah.
preaching more.
Yeah.
So that's what, like they are like those who are doing preaching, they will be always in preaching. Those who are doing pot washing, they will always be stuck
Not
up in
necessarily.
pot
I started as a pot washer.
No, no, I'm
telling
saying-
you my own experience. I did only pot washing in Canada. No preaching business. First
No, I'm
year,
saying
1 year.
once you have grown up and your skill set is decided that this devotee is good at these things. So then there are less chances that you do those service because you are always
Yeah, because obviously the higher principle is not to is for me the instruction is very clear from my spiritual master. The instruction is serve the temple president. Whatever he wants you do, then I am pleased. So it was very simple. So he tapped me and said, "Don't stand here." Then there is no point in trying to me trying to get a humility doing a humility experiment with my services. Humility at the end of the day, what is the higher definition? Humility means subordination to higher authority. So immediately I said, "Okay, you continue, don't come here." I said, "Okay, fine, leave that." At the end of the day, we don't get attached to any service. It's whatever the senior devotees want, we serve in that way.
How can we develop, as you said, like once we are at fixed service, and we forget the other things, then how can we develop that kind of attitude that we don't offend others?
So we have to just there is nothing external that you will have to do. We have to obviously, if Prabhupada disciples are coming into the kitchen, senior devotees are coming, then even if these devotees do not have that expertise which we have, then we can serve them by helping them, by teaching them how to do it. Not necessarily that because somebody joined the Krishna consciousness movement earlier, then he will always be a better cook than a person who joined the movement later. It is not necessarily like that. So there is a difference between skills and bhakti, realization. It is a skill in the kitchen. So you can serve the senior devotees better. You can say, "Prabhuji, I'm not as experienced, I'm not very experienced, but in my limited service, if you cut it this way, Prabhu, I have seen that it works. Would you like to try it out?" It's the way you approach the senior devotees. Rather than saying that, "Prabhu, not like that, Prabhu." No, if you say like that, he'll say, "Who the hell is this fellow?" I'm Prabhupada disciple. You are hurting that person. It's that way, the tone. It's never the message. It's always the tone in which it is given that either hurts the person or not. If we tell it in a very loving way, nobody will. And now the question is, it is also the onus of that devotee. If he says, "Prabhu," even if you approach humbly, saying that, "Prabhu, in my view, I think if you cut it like that, this is better." He said, "Don't teach me. I am Prabhupada disciple. Come on." Then that person will fall down. If you don't respect him, you will fall down. If he takes his position for granted and doesn't see sense in what you are talking, then he will fall down. Does it make sense or no?
But this is ideal situation. This is the situation devotee should be. But I am saying, as devotee has got the position and he is puffed up. See, kursi kisi ko bhi India he say kursi mili means we forget everything. Power makes.
Can we take this question next time? Because it is going to take a long time.
There is little
Everyone is
power,
tired.
but I am saying it is not that fair. But that thing comes into our false ego. That how I am doing this. A small power. And that makes us वो हमें like गलत करने पे मजबूर. That's what I am saying. Of course, ideal things are there. You say like we have to obey.
This is not ideal. This is Vaishnava etiquette. This is the basic.
I mean that's what we have to obey whatever Shiksha Guru says.
Do one thing. If you believe that we need more discussion on this point, please do. It's a good point, but we will take it up in the next class. Will you remind me to discuss this point in the next class? We will discuss. It's a nice point, and it is also connected with the mood of serving now in this verse. So please take it up. We will discuss it in detail. Because it's late now. I don't want to hold everyone. Thank you. Srila Prabhupada ki.